and welcome down to episode 3 of the Boydens Prop-Cast. Today I'm joined with Alex Kane, who is the head of our Leasehold and Estate Management department.
I am.
And today we're kind of looking into seeing what is behind the gates and kind of what it takes to manage estate and leasehold properties in today's market. So thanks so much, Alex, for joining me today and agreeing to sit down and chew the fat for kind of 30 minutes or so on this. I know that we've obviously had a chat previously about the 10 years that you've had with ourselves.
Yep.
I think we had that chat kind of start of the year. But for the people at home that maybe haven't listened or watched that, then give us a bit of a breakdown of yourself, Alex.
Yeah, well, I'm born and bred Colchester. I was born in the old maternity hospital in Lexington, which is no longer here now.
No.
Went to school quite locally and then sort of did languages and music at sixth form, but then decided to have a change. Took a gap year and had a change of heart. I've always been interested in buildings and maintenance, and I've got quite a sort of OCD about looking after properties properly. So I thought building surveying would be a great thing to go into, which I did at Brighton University for 3 years, graduated with that, and then came home to live with my parents, and this wonderful job came up at Boydens as a trainee property manager. And I thought that would be it would join the two things that I love, which is A, buildings and looking after buildings, but B, also customer service, because I've got quite a good retail background, having worked for Burberry and Jack Wills for about 6 years altogether. So that's how it all started. It
would be quite apt, wouldn't it, Alex? Because I know that at the moment we've been tendering for the old hospital across the way is being converted at the moment into houses and flats, and I know that we've been in the mix at potentially managing that whole block, so it'll be quite a full circle if we come round and actually manage that, but maybe a little bit about that another time. But it really does, you love Colchester, don't you? But you've also travelled, and Brighton, you've still got a good nucleus of friends and stuff like that you still go down to Brighton quite a lot, so it is a It pulled you back. Family, I suppose, was that?
Yeah, it's great to be near my parents and my brother, and people I grew up with here. Home is where the heart is, as they say. So
Indeed.
No, it's good to be in Colchester. It's a special place. It's got lots of history, and there's a lot of investment going into it now with it becoming a city.
And in terms of being with Boydens over the 10 years, talk us a little bit. Obviously, you came in as a trainee, and now you're kind of fully fledged, leading the whole department. So talk us a little bit about how that role has kind of developed over the years, Alex. Really,
it's been an incredible journey, to be honest with you. I came in not really knowing anything about block management at all, to be honest with you. I went for this job because I knew that it involved maintenance of buildings, which was great for my surveying side of things, and I knew that it would involve looking after residents, but I didn't really know anything other than that. So I came in, I had a great team around me who all contributed to my training. And then within a year, I'd really picked it up quickly, and I think it was a year in. So 2015, I started to manage some of our larger properties that needed a little bit more specialist knowledge, which is where I could use the building surveying. So I took on some buildings like the Mill Apartments on East Street in Colchester, which is a Grade 2 converted mill. Very interesting building, lots of different quirky bits to that. Also Dedham Mill in Dedham, which is similar type of thing. It's a conversion, very historic.
Half of it's over water, so
and it's over water.
Certainly got its complexities on that one, Alex.
One
of the things, but before you came and joined, did you? Because a lot of people at home listening and watching probably don't know what is involved in leasehold estate block management. were you in that party that you liked buildings and knew there was some management of it, but probably were a little bit unaware of the complexity involved in everything that you guys obviously get involved in, really?
Yeah, I'm very, very happy to say that I had no idea because I lived in Brighton. I was a bit unusual because I'd taken a gap year. I actually had a place at King's College in London to study German and music.
Okay.
But in my gap year, I decided that I wanted to go into building surveying. So I moved to Brighton last minute and didn't get a place in the halls.
Oh, crikey.
So for the whole time that I was in Brighton, I was in private flat and I was in a block, managed. And I had no idea that there was a managing agent or what they did. I was oblivious.
That's quite a change from going from King's College down to Brighton and surveying. But boy, thank God you did do that.
Brighton is one of the best universities for surveying in the country. So although it's not got the best reputation for some of the other courses, it's really strong at building surveying. Yeah,
super stuff. So you mentioned a couple of blocks there that we manage or that you took over some of the management of it. But give us a little bit of an overview of what Boydens do manage as a whole. We go from I'll let you kind of talk, Alex, about what kind of blocks and estates we do manage, really.
Well, we have a very eclectic mix of buildings and estates, which keeps things really interesting. We have our modern purpose-built blocks of flats, some which have been built in the last 20 years and some which have been built in the last few years. And even those, although they look similar, it's interesting to see the differences there because there's more focus on fire safety and compliance on the newer buildings than there were perhaps 20 years ago. We manage Grade 2 listed conversions, we manage converted warehouses, we manage estates with freehold houses. That's becoming more popular. We've got 60s blocks of flats on the coast. We've also got a converted hotel on the coast. We've actually got two now. Yeah. We've got both the Grands, one in Clacton and one in Frinton, which are just, beautiful icons,
properties,
absolute icons of the coast, and we manage both of them. So we're very proud of that.
Yeah.
And that has its own, although it's again another old building, it's different to the mill and it's different to Dedham Mill because it's on the coast. So for example, with the Grand and Frinton, we had to rebuild the balconies on one elevation because the coastal erosion had got into the concrete of the balconies and eroded away the cast iron beams.
Crikey. What, I suppose, because of the southwesterlies kind of coming in, whipping and up that coast and just that sea breeze kind of constantly flying in.
100 years of salt getting through the concrete. So
wow. We have got where we are. We have got a really nice, diverse amount of blocks and estates, as you say, and I think we are picking up kind of 5-6 years ago. We didn't have many freehold estates at all, did we? But I think that was partly because of every estate or most estates that got built, the highways or the council took them on. They then became adopted. Whereas nowadays, a lot of it is down to having a service charge or a estate management charge to do it. And frankly, the companies which are implemented when they first get built, they're just a number or a company that are up in the Midlands and they don't know the area, don't know the estates at all, and the management of them is fairly poor from the off, isn't it? So we tend to get involved when it's 2-3 years old, and unfortunately we've got a series of maintenance to get it back up to where we want it to get to before it then kind of looks as good as it should. But that's a new area of the business that we've grown into in a way, isn't it?
Absolutely, it's growing quite a lot because, as Philip says, it's a lot of the new developments of houses now are not being adopted by the councils. Yeah. So it's a different job to block management, although it's similar. But we actually charge our estates less than we do our blocks because the blocks there's a hell of a lot, in terms of building maintenance, compliance, fire safety, and all of the other things that go into it, which I'm sure we'll talk about in more detail later.
Absolutely.
Whereas the estates, a lot of the ones that we've taken on are made up of freehold houses, and our role is to maintain the communal grounds and make them look lovely.
Not
do
the physical,
accounts and
not the physical property.
not
obviously.
the physical properties. So we do charge less for that because there is less to do, but nevertheless there is still work to do. And we're very pleased to have that on there because it just makes the job a little bit more interesting. So,
Absolutely. Give me a second. I'm just going to make sure that it's recording. Oh, why is it doing this bloody flashing work? Absolutely, yeah. So, Alex, talk to us a little bit about a typical day in the life of a block manager. Is there a typical day? Probably not. But talk us about a typical day as a block manager.
sometimes there are typical days, but I'll be honest with you, most days are different.
Yeah.
The blocks never sleep.
No.
So you'll maybe plan out your day and think, right, I want to get these things done. I really
Yeah.
want to catch up on this. And then you'll get a phone call and the whole day changes. So there's loads of different parts of block management, whether that's reviewing or preparing your budgets, preparing for an annual general meeting with your residents, and actioning any points from those meetings, going to site, actually physically being on site. We go to all of our sites at least every 3 months. Some more often if the customer would like us to visit more frequently, we're more than happy to do that. And yeah, obviously dealing with contractors from those visits and liaising with directors about any work that needs to be done. And then also long-term planning into the future.
Yeah.
5-year planning. When was the block last decorated? When
Yeah.
did the lift last get replaced? That sort of thing. But then, as I say, you'll get a phone call and there'll be a huge leak.
Yeah.
And most of the time the leaks are from flats into other flats, so it's not something that we can foresee or really prevent. We do ask residents to keep an eye on their plumbing, and we do remind people, but nevertheless you will still
Leaks will happen, won't
leaks will happen. That sort of thing, unforeseen things can throw your day off, and then the next thing you're spending a couple of hours liaising with the different flats and making sure they're in touch with each other and getting the water to stop.
Yeah.
So it's very
It's not. There's not a set routine, is there? Obviously,
Not at all.
you did. I'm going to dive a little bit more, Alex, because I think that this is an area of kind of management that I think we are better at than a lot of other firms, which is, as you said, 5-year planning. Or even 10-year kind of planning to look at a block, and with your background as well, looking at things going, that's probably going to need doing at some point, that's going to need doing, and then putting that into the budget to make sure that there isn't then a shortcoming in 3 years' time when that thing needs doing. Because I think that a lot of block agents, maybe if they're not on site so much and not looking at the block so much, then something will happen like, suddenly that'll need doing, and
there isn't the funds.
There, and then you're having to bill someone a massive amount. Talk to us. I know that we're doing a whole new re-roof on a big old block just off of Cambridge Road, aren't we?
We are.
Talk us a little. I put Alex on the spot here. Talk to us a little bit about the case study there, and when did we know that something was probably going to need happening to now, which is actually when it is happening.
Yeah.
Talk us a little bit about that one, Alex.
Well, we've been talking about that for about 5 years, if I'm honest with you. It's a big decision to make, replacing a roof. Sometimes you have no choice.
Yeah.
But where it all started was myself and one of the property managers at the time was having a walk around the site, and we saw some broken slates around the building, which is a bit of a red flag. So we flagged that with the directors at the time and said, look, we're a bit concerned. And over that period, we've had some interim roof repairs just to make sure we're keeping on top of maintenance and preventing leaks. But we then recommended a surveyor come in and do a full roof survey, because the roofers that we use said, it's starting to, you want to start thinking about replacement. So we got a surveyor in, did a full survey. He came up with costings, and then we were able to present that at the annual general meeting. Because we caught it in time, because we had flagged it at the point where we'd first noticed problems. We were able to have a 5-year run up to it. Yeah. We were able to bill people through the reserve fund over a 5-year period rather than 1 or 2 years. Yeah. They knew it was coming for ages. It's been in the AGM minutes for a long time, and we've not had any problems with people paying or anybody who thinks that we shouldn't be doing it. Everybody's been completely on board, so it's been a success. And our contractor, who we use very, very often for a lot of big projects, co-roofing and building, are doing a fantastic job. I only went up there on the scaffolding the other day, and it's looking amazing. Yeah, so
it's just about getting everything in the right order, isn't it, Alex?
Yeah.
If say something had happened and then suddenly, boom, an emergency roof repair would have been needed, wouldn't have been able to go out to kind of tender as easily, wouldn't have been able to kind of build up spec plans and everything like that, and
no,
it would have cost more, and it would have also been a lot harder for those residents to have stumped up, $7,000 in 1 year, rather than split it over 5 years into a lot more manageable chunks, really.
That's it.
But yeah, I just thought we'd go down that kind of rabbit hole, so to speak, on that front. But is there anything in particular that you find that residents, leaseholders, kind of often don't realise that we're doing in the background? Kind of, I think a lot of people think, you just have a wander around, have a look at a roof, and have a look at the windows. Yeah, that'll do. Charge a service charge. Jobs are good, and kind of thing.
If only it was that simple.
But what are the hidden kind of hidden jobs and roles, I suppose?
Well, there's a lot of spotlight on the industry at the moment for various reasons.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of scrutiny. So it's not just a case of whipping a budget up, for example. You've got to put a lot of time and effort into it and think about what the building needs. Because anything that you charge through the service charge or the reserve fund, you've got to be able to justify, and you've got to be able to prove it's reasonable. So the budgeting side of things takes a long time, and leaseholders don't see that. That's not a physical change on site. There's also all of the compliance stuff, which is getting more and more important in the government's eyes. It's always been important to us as block managers, but there's more regulations on fire safety, and we do appoint independent assessors to go out and have a look at the communal areas and the buildings, make sure they're safe, and then behind the scenes we're going through 100-page reports and arranging any action points. Other compliance issues like 5-year electrical tests, arranging the contracts for the gardeners, cleaners. There's loads and loads of things. There's never a quiet day.
Yeah, there is a lot of legislation there that people don't realise. I know that we actually have we took on a company only at the start of this year because they were kind of falling so far behind on their fire safety bits and bobs. So we actually, we said to them, look, come on board with us. We'll deal with that. We've got some fantastic expertise in that area, and it's worked really well. It is ever evolving, and I think one thing I always say about ourselves is that we're still small enough to care about each individual client and each individual, but we are big enough to work and keep on top of all the legislation and that kind of thing. Whereas if it's just a 2-man band or something like that, and there's only 2 people, then often it can be quite hard to keep on top of all those changes that are coming in. Whereas there's 10 now, 10, 11 in the department, which is a nice number of people, but it's not 35, 40 people.
No.
So each person will speak to the same person a number of times. So it's a nice small group, but it's also big enough to work as a whole business as well. Really.
Yeah.
But more on terms of the the industry as a whole, Alex, I think is as you alluded to, there's obviously with Grenfell stuff like that, but there's a whole big change of the leasehold reform and those kind of things. But what would you say is the biggest challenges which are facing leasehold and yourselves in 2025?
I think one of the biggest challenges is the rising cost of service charge, and this stems from a number of different reasons. We've had high levels of inflation over the last few years, which has put the cost of materials up. So maintenance side of things. I mean, I remember when you could modernise or even replace a lift for less than 100,000, but you're now well over 100,000 to replace a lift doing it properly. Things have gone up crazy amounts.
Yeah.
And Grenfell, that was obviously a tragic situation. And a lot of the in fact, all of the buildings that we manage are nothing like Grenfell, and they're not high rise and they don't have cladding, but it has had a knock-on effect to all blocks.
Yeah.
Because it's shone the light on the importance of fire safety.
Yep.
As a result of that, the knock-on effect from that is that buildings insurance companies, a lot of them have withdrawn from the market. So there's less competition, and buildings insurance has gone up huge amounts. If I won't name the building, but if I was to use one as an example, there's a building that I personally manage where the insurance was coming in at around £10,000 a year for the block. It's now coming in the 50s only 5 years later. Wow. It's gone up an incredible amount, and we're seeing that across
5 times.
Yeah, so service charges have risen, and residents aren't necessarily seeing loads and loads of extra stuff as a result of that. It's all stuff that they don't see.
Well, insurance is hopefully something that you don't need or don't use, isn't it? Really, it's an insurance policy, and that kind of is money for. It's not money for nothing, but it is money for a worst case scenario of something happening. That you really don't want to happen, really.
No, that's right. And hopefully that will settle back down after, once all of the buildings have been remediated under the Building Safety Act. And, I do think buildings that are built moving forwards will be built to spec, built to the correct spec and standard.
You'd hope so.
You'd hope so, because there's a lot that have been built in the last 20 years that aren't. No. That haven't got the necessary fire stopping, for example, have got the wrong cladding on them. And what have you,
or even they in the planning stage and everything like that, they were built. They should have been built like that, but actually when they were signed off, they were never built to that specification. Which is
So I'm hoping, I'm cautiously optimistic that once all the buildings have been remediated and time goes on, hopefully the insurance side of things will settle back down again, and the service charges will feel a little bit more manageable.
Yeah. We'll see. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll keep you updated on that, guys. I know you've written a couple of blogs on the leasehold reform, and but was there anything? I know that we don't want to go too heavy on too much legislation, Alex, but is there something you just wanted to touch on to give people at home a little bit of an idea on what it might be involved in it?
There's some big changes that are coming. One of the biggest things that's being talked about but hasn't been confirmed yet is that we may be changing tenures. So at the moment, flats in England and Wales are all on leasehold.
Yep.
And there's potential that will go over to common hold. The main difference on that is that with leasehold, you've got leaseholder and the freeholder.
Yeah.
In a lot of blocks, the leaseholders collectively own the freehold, but nevertheless, there is still the freehold company and the leaseholders.
Yep.
With common hold, all of the flat owners would own the building in common and have a common hold contract. So the buildings, from a block management point of view, I think there's been quite a bit of misconception in the media. They're saying, this will deal with service charges, level of service charges. I don't think it will make a difference. The blocks still need to be managed.
You still there will still need to be a service charge paid to manage the block. Absolutely.
There's still going to be all the services. Managing agents aren't, certainly we're not making up services that they don't need. These are all services that are outlined in the lease, and they'll be the sort of services that we'd expect to find in the common hold contract. So I think there's been a bit of misconception there, but from an ownership point of view, I think it will be better, because you won't need to worry about extending your lease. You won't need to worry about paying a ground rent. I think it will be a better form of ownership. You all collectively own the building in common. I think that'll be good.
I think that there was the reason that really sparked this was we haven't had it so much in this area of the country, but there were what should have been freehold houses being sold as leasehold, and stipulations on some of those leasehold houses for putting a conservatory on for an element of it was that you'd have to pay £20,000 if you wanted to make any changes to the external part of your house or the fabric of the house. So I think that almost stems where it has kind of come from. Most leases are fairly reasonable, I'd say. There's some in this area where some leases have got doubling ground rents, which is probably the worst provision in our area that I think we come across, because of if you're looking at doubling ground rent every 10 years and the term of the lease is 125 years, I think it could be worked out that you were paying, £6,000 in a ground rent over the term of the lease, which obviously when it was first sold sounds very reasonable, because you're only paying £50, but that 50 then becomes 100 becomes 200, and so on and so forth. That's the only area that I think this area may see some real benefit of going down that kind of common hold route, really. But a lot of our blocks that we manage, there's a freehold company which the leaseholders all own, isn't there? As you alluded to earlier.
We've got a number of blocks where the leaseholders collectively own the freehold, so they don't have to then pay ground rent, and they don't have to worry about lease extensions, because they would normally have been extended out to 999, so you'd only pay the legal costs there, and that's effectively what common hold will be like. I guess it's the blocks where you've got a separate freehold investor and the ground rents are doubling, as you say.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah. Where I think the government, they've banned ground rents on new blocks going up now, so there's been progress on that. There's a lot of changes coming, but as Philip, you've spoken about in a lot of other blogs and interviews with Paul Buck, the focus for the government has been on the Renters' Rights Bill. I think that has taken precedent over the leasehold and freehold reform. Once that's over the line, I think we'll start to see a bit more progress in our industry.
Thanks, Alex. And guys, if you want any updates, then do subscribe to our YouTube channel, and also look at our news part of our website, in which we will update anything that comes along. We'll put out news articles on there. So just a little bit on that front.
Time for another blog, I think.
Maybe, Alex. But what's the current view on I suppose service charge and the transparency of service charge, Alex? I know that we're very transparent with the service charge to all, but talk your way through that as such, really.
Yeah, well, I mean, the RICS governs service charge, and as I sort of touched earlier, when you charge leaseholders a service charge, you've got to be able to justify the expense. So that involves going out to tender on the various different contracts. It's about getting quotes. It's about looking ahead for the next 5 years and making sure that you haven't just plucked a figure out of thin air for the reserve fund. You've actually worked out what needs to be done, and roughly how much it's going to cost, so that you can spread the cost of that as evenly as you can over that period of time. So the government is looking at introducing new measures to make service charges more transparent, and that's great. I support that, because I know there are some agents that release service charge bills with barely any information. Because we're a company that is part of a voluntary governing body, because the industry isn't regulated at the moment by the government, but that's another change that's probably coming.
Yep.
Boydens is part of the Property Institute, which is the governing body for England and Wales. They have always guided us on issuing service charges in a completely transparent manner. So there's nothing to hide. And I find if you communicate in an open way with leaseholders, they're more inclined to be on board with you and pay the service charge.
Absolutely, absolutely.
If people feel like there's things to hide,
the more they know about where the money's going, then the more they understand the whole cost associated with it. But
that's right.
Moving out now, a few more kind of more real life stories and experiences, I suppose, Alex. Have you ever had a major challenge or site emergency that you've had to deal with at all?
Yeah,
a number.
There have been a few, but I think the one that sticks out the most is there was a fire at a block of flats that I personally manage. Over 90% of fires in blocks of flats start in the flats themselves rather than the communal areas, and this was no different. Mm-hmm. There was a water cylinder that caught fire and it completely burnt the flat out. And we were open at that point. It wasn't at night, so I rushed down to site. And it was a new one for me because somebody had just lost their home and they were very upset. And as a property manager, I felt that I needed to be there for them. So there was a bit of a different aspect to the job. Yeah. But then there was all the fallout from that, dealing with the insurers, the loss adjusters, being interviewed by the fire service. Yeah. And we found from that incident that all of the water cylinders had a common fault. So we had to, because the water cylinders are located in the flats, that's not something the managing agent actually maintains themselves. Yeah. So we had to employ a solicitor on behalf of the directors on their instruction to write to all of the leaseholders and basically make everybody get their cylinders fixed. Yeah.
It was a whole. I went in one of the flats actually that was there the other day, and they said that there was an interim period as well where before it had been changed in their flat, they noticed it had got hot and could have then caused a fire. And these were tenants actually. And they managed to switch it off before it then caused a fire. So we could have ended up with another burnout of a flat in that same block. Really.
Well, there were two fires because unfortunately there was an interim period where investigations were ongoing, and that took months. And in that period of time, there was another fire. So exactly the same thing happened again. But yes, you're right. There were other flats in the building that started to notice their boilers getting hot and the electrics getting hot. And this all compiled part of the case and the investigation. And eventually it was concluded by the loss adjusters that there was a common fault, and we've been able to resolve that now so that, touch wood, there haven't been any further fires. So
talk to us a little bit, Alex, about the fallout of that. Obviously, we got through all that, all the loss adjusters and everything like that, insurers. But what's been the everlasting kind of concerns really for that block from those?
Well, we're quite confident that the water cylinders are not an issue anymore. Mm-hmm. So that's good, obviously. Yeah. But the buildings insurance is continuing to be an issue. Yep. Again, this was a block where the policy was coming in around 10,000-15,000 before the fire. It's now hitting 70. Yep. And unfortunately, unlike leaks drop off the claims history after about 3 to 5 years, depending on what insurer it is. Fires stay there forever. As time goes on, obviously, it'll be more of a historic thing. But
so would there be kind of more of a no claims bonus, so to speak? Would there be, it's been 4 years since the fire, it's been 5 years, 6 years, 7 years because of, was it? Obviously, a fire can happen completely as a individual that is in that flat's fault. Say if they put a frying pan on and left it on and a fire was caused from that. That is a complete accident. That wouldn't make any difference what caused the fire. It's kind of...
Well, yeah, the insurers do look at the risk and what mitigating measures you've put in place, and we've been able to present to them evidence that solicitors have been involved and evidence of certificates from flats that have had the remedial works, and that has
brought it down.
It has brought it down. Good. Absolutely. We had a fire in a block back in 2012 before I joined here, and it was actually before we managed the block. It was with another agent. That's quite a long time ago now, so that fire isn't having such a big impact on the buildings insurance, but nevertheless we still do have to declare it.
I know that we've had some really interesting world in blocks. I know there was one point on Wellesley Road where unfortunately we were in the middle of a criminal case in where unfortunately a couple of people lost their lives, weren't we, Alex? And that was a really
that was tragic,
interesting position to be in, and obviously if you're sitting at home and thinking block management, you just go around and look at some tiles. We have been involved in lots of different stories and lots of different positions that you would never expect a block manager to get involved in, really.
That's right.
So what would you say is the biggest misconception about estate management, really?
Well, I think there are a lot of agents out there, if I'm being honest, Philip, that are corporate faceless entities that are very, very not very personal. You don't really know who your property manager is, and it's difficult to speak to the same person twice. These are sort of big national corporate firms. And I think as a result of those companies, there is a misconception that all agents are sort of just sitting in the office and go out to do the odd site visit, and they bill the service charge and they're making a lot of money off of leaseholders. But that is not the case for a lot of agents, especially the ones that are part of the Property Institute, and especially us. We have always celebrated the fact that we do block management differently. All of our blocks know who their property manager is. We don't have some call centre when you ring up. When you ring up, there is one option that you choose, which is either property management or accounts. So you just click option 1 and you're straight through to the property management team. Someone picks up and you can speak to who you need to speak to. So I think, that misconception has been built, but with a lot of agents, Boydens especially, because we do it the best, obviously. We offer a very, very personal service, and we genuinely are invested in people's homes and their blocks of flats, and we want to make a difference. We want to improve the environment that our residents live in, and that's what we work hard
I'd say that really is. I know that from walking around and going to flats, there's a little placard there for X company, and you think, right, where are they? So you look them up, London. You're like, right. And you go for on the phone. You're on a waiting list. You're 18th in the queue, and you get through, and you never speak to the same person. Where I think we've really have focused on having one property manager for that block. They get to know that block. They fall in love with that block as such. They really do know it. And it becomes theirs. They know exactly what's happening with it. The directors are speaking to that person on a one-to-one basis. AGMs, they're at the AGMs all the time. So I'd say that's the biggest misconception of estate management. It's just
a lot of comments that we've received is that our property managers are actually part of an extension to the block and part of the family. I mean, talking personally, I've been here now 11 years. And some of those buildings that I've managed from sort of year 2, so nearly coming up to 10 years. And when I come down there, it's like I live there. Like the residents come out and go, "Oh, hi Alex, how you doing?"
A little cup of tea.
Yeah, exactly, and it's great. That's what it's all about, because over that time, property managers, if they stick with it, you can build up a good relationship with your residents, trust. It feels like a team effort. You're working with the residents to improve their building.
So, Alex, what is your proudest moment to date at Boydens? Is it going to be a personal thing? Is it going to be a team thing? Is it going to be a block thing? What's that kind of one thing that you're most proud of?
I'll be honest with you. I would say if I look back at my 11 years here, the proudest moment for me was being given the opportunity to run the department.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been doing it now for nearly 6 years, so I'm a little bit older than I was when I took it on. But at the time, I was in my 20s. I was the youngest manager at Boydens. And I felt that was a real achievement, that I've been able to come in from the bottom and work my way up to now managing the team. And here we are 6 years later into the role, and we're going great guns. It's going really, really well. We've expanded. We've got a great team, behind me now, and it's really good. So that was probably my proudest achievement.
And also the mill.
The mill. The mill apartments is a special building. I've looked after it for 10 years, and it looks a lot better than it did 10 years ago.
There is something lovely about that building. But
I walked into that building 10 years ago, and it was magnolia all the way through.
Yeah.
And it's now a lovely.
It feels like you're in a hotel when you go down there, doesn't it? It's lovely.
Very well maintained.
Yeah. But thanks, Alex, for sitting down with me today.
It's been great.
It's been probably a little bit longer than we thought we were going to be having a chat with you. But if you're a leaseholder, resident, landlord, or anything in between, then or even if you're looking to sell a property in a block, then please do come and have a chat with myself or Alex or any of the team, and we'd be happy to assist with any kind of property concern or property problem that you may have. But don't forget to follow ourselves on YouTube and also on Spotify to listen to future episodes of this Prop-Cast. And we'll see you on the next one. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much.
Cheers, bye.